It's mock draft Monday yet again, pre-NFL scouting combine, and we got 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. J.J. McCarthy is an Atlanta Falcons. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. But we're going to kick this intro to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man. On the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man, where we give you championship level content surrounding the NFL Draft 24/7, 365, man. I want to start this podcast by saying, man, shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in each and every single day, man. Make sure you hit the like button for this Mock Draft Monday podcast. Comment, let us know which picks you like, right? And if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel and tell a friend that this is the best NFL draft content out there. DP, you talked about it, man. 4 quarterbacks in the top 10 we're going through, right? Cornerbacks shine in the top 20. How many cornerbacks go? We're going to talk about this. And then the Dolphins replace Tua Tagoviloa. Could it be with another lefty? We'll talk about it coming up next. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. All right, Keith, we're going over our guy, our colleague over at the Draft Network, Ryan Fowler.
We're not holding any punches, DP. We're not holding any punches, man.
No. Fowler knows better than expect something like that, Keith. We're not going to pull no punches when we talk about this mock, but guys, let's go ahead and get into this thing. At number 1, the Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams, quarterback at the USC. At number 2, the Washington Commanders select Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. At number 3, or pick 3, the New England Patriots go quarterback out of LSU, Jaden Daniels. At pick number 4, the Arizona Cardinals select Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. At pick 5, the Los Angeles Chargers go offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, Joe Alt. At pick 6, the New York Giants select Malik Neighbors, wide receiver from LSU. At pick 7, the Tennessee Titans select Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle out of Penn State. At pick number 8, the Atlanta Falcons go quarterback J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. At pick number 9, the Chicago Bears go Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington. And then at pick number 10, at pick 10, we got the New York Jets selecting Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. Keith, I got to go right up to number, what was that, 7, 8? That was 8, right? Listen, JJ. I know there's a lot of Falcons fans, Keith, that will not be happy with this. But as I continue to say, this is the 3rd year you have been in the quarterback wasteland, right? You're in the draft no man's land, the team where nobody wants to be when you need a quarterback. The eighth spot you've held, what I think Keith was meant 3 straight seasons?
This is the 3rd year in a row that the Atlanta Falcons have drafted at the number 8 overall pick.
Do you know how unlucky you got to be when you don't got a quarterback to hit the 8th spot every single year, like 3 straight years?
DP, to do it 3 years in a row, pick 8, we have to be honest. That's impressive. Like that's difficult to do, it right? Really to be the same exact thing, right? And honestly, you want to talk about a model of consistency? That's a model of consistency right there, to be able to be at pick number 8 with DP. Let's get into the selection, man. How do you like the fit? Because it's I feel like it's a lot of interesting moving pieces. And what I'm saying is this, that obviously they just brought in, a new head coach, Raheem Morris, right? And then we talked about the OC. The OC came from the Los Angeles Rams
too. Yeah,
also,
Zach Robinson.
Zach Robinson. But my question would be, Terry Fontenot that's the kind of interesting situation, right? Because he's the kind of like the only guy that was left over from the last regime, or just as far as like the front office, because we know they got rid of the head coach, right? So do you think he'll be willing to take a quarterback, and does he feel like he has enough time to take a quarterback and then be able to watch the quarterback groom? Because I just wonder if the Falcons are going to try to go with a veteran to try to win now, or do you think they should go with JJ McCarthy with this top 8 pick?
Well, Keith, it's crazy because I was listening to Tom Pelissero from NFL Network and Steve Wyche talk about the fact that Terry Fontenot basically has all but certainly alluded that they will not be going after Justin Fields. Like that he's looking at a quarterback in this draft, and if they have to be aggressive, they're going to get a young quarterback out of this draft. And I'm like, well, okay then, right? So you know what I mean? That if that's the case, then yeah, I think skill set wise, putting JJ in that Sean McVay, Mike Shanahan type of offense, because that's what all these offenses stem from, is Mike Shanahan's offense. If you put JJ McCarthy with his arm talent, his mobility, like you can, and you develop him, man, you're gonna have a high level court. We've said it multiple times, Keith. Now we've had people in the YouTube comments, we've had people on Twitter. I don't see it. I think JJ McCarthy's a bust. People comparing to Zach Wilson, all type of craziness. And I'm like, guys, that is not a good comparison at all. You know what I mean? From not just they're both toolsy and traitsy guys, but no, two different situations. Like JJ saw some of the best defenses and talent in college football. That year that Zach Wilson, was propped up, it was a COVID year. He didn't face top 10 teams and didn't face a lot of great teams that while he was at BYU compared to 2019 when he did.
Yeah, they created their own schedule right during COVID. Correct. Because BYU was it an independent school or something like that? I think were independent conference, and then so they they were playing a bunch of group of 5 schools. So that part went into the DP. But I want to move on to pick 9. The Chicago Bears drafting Rome Odunze.
I love this.
I've never seen this one, and this the one thing with Fowler's mock, especially in this top 10, has been a couple of selections that I haven't seen yet, a couple of pairings, and the Rome Odunze to the Chicago Bears, I actually like, because I think it's another big body potential wide receiver 1 type situation, and then allow you to free up DJ Moore to do some different things, right? And I think that's the type of wide receiver that DJ Moore is. He needs to be freed up to be able to do different things. Like he's a guy I would like to see them put in the backfield just to give some crazy looks, right? Like just to give a crazy look, and not him run the football, right? But just, potential matchups and stuff like that. And then let Rome operate as potentially, your X, or you put him in slot and allow you just to do some versatile things. But DP even picked 10 because we talked about it all off season. Then obviously Aaron Rodgers, tore his Achilles week 1, play 5, right, of the NFL season, and that whole storyline went down the drain quickly. How do you feel about Brock Bowers and adding him to the New York Jets as far as Super Bowl contending? Like, do you think this is a piece to help add on and push them over the top and be one of the better teams in the AFC?
With a normal star quarterback, Keith, yes. With the Tom Brady, with the Drew Brees, a Patrick Mahomes, a Justin Herbert, yes. Aaron Rodgers has never really been a tight end friendly quarterback. He's like, even during his time in Green Bay, like he's never been a guy that targeted them at a high volume. And what I don't want is for Brock Bowers to fall to a situation where on paper it looks great. Just like Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts going to the Falcons when he was drafted, they still had, I think, Calvin Ridley at the time. They still had Julio. They still had Matt Ryan. You're like, man, all right, this is going to look good come the regular season. Then Julio wasn't there anymore, and Matt Ryan was on the back end, like his arms was dying off, and like the reality set in. But they're set in after the draft, right? On the field. I don't know if, like, I love Brock Bowers, but I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is really going to target him in such a heavy way. And this is a team that I think runs a lot of 12. They want to run the ball. And Brock Bowers is such an inconsistent run blocker as well. So it's like, how is he going to fit? But if Aaron Rodgers gives him the targets, I love it, right? Because you got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall in the backfield. I forget the guy he brought from with him. Well, he brought a couple people from Green Bay with him. But, like, they have weapons. They got a good weapons situation. I kind of question, Keith, like, should they go tackle here? Like, you know what I mean? Instead of Brock, like, as great as Brock is, Would you prefer to leave Fuaga right here, and then
Yeah,
you
and
kick
I
Makai
don't.
back in that left tackle?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Malik Neighbors came off the board
No,
yet, right?
he's at 6.
He was at
New
6.
York.
Okay, 'cause I was about to say maybe that was a target that they could have went after. But I mean, I like Brock Bowers, and we'll get into the conversation of how much I like Brock Bowers. But
Right.
this is an interesting selection for me, right? This is the first one that I'm kind of like, I don't necessarily know if this needs to happen for a lot of the points that you outlined. But DP, let's keep going, man. We haven't seen any cornerbacks come off the board. And yes, we have a couple corners coming off the board coming up next. So stay tuned to see who is cornerback 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. New customers get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players like Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and so much more, including the teams that you love as well. Me, I'm a Detroit Pistons fan. I get to bet on the Detroit Pistons. You can bet on the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, so forth and so on, guys. And you can make those bets with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and so much, and I mean so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Let's keep this thing going. At pick number 11, the Minnesota Vikings select cornerback 1, Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. At pick 12, the Denver Broncos go Laiatu Latu, edge rusher from UCLA. At pick 13, the Las Vegas Raiders select Talise Fuaga, offensive tackle from Oregon State. At pick 14, the New Orleans Saints select offensive tackle out of Oklahoma, Tyler Guyton. At pick 15, the Indianapolis Colts select Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback from Toledo. At pick 16, the Seattle Seahawks select Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. At pick 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars go Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman from Texas. At pick 18, the Cincinnati Bengals select J.C. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama. At pick 19, the Los Angeles Rams select Nate Wiggins, cornerback from Clemson. And at pick 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers go Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. Keith, let's start at the top. How do you feel about the Minnesota Vikings? I think you said this many times. The Minnesota Vikings consistently need cornerbacks, right?
They're always,
and if I remember correct, I think Flores is still there as the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Flores is still there. And what I say is that the Minnesota Vikings are always drafting corners, and they always need cornerbacks. It's the craziest thing.
How do you feel about putting Arnold in that system with Brian Flores? Do you feel like that's a good fit?
I feel like it's a good fit, but I'll be completely honest, DP. I think it's a little rich, especially for the Minnesota Vikings. I think that this is a good cornerback class, but I think it's a good cornerback class, and you find the best value not taking guys necessarily in the top 12, top 15, but you find it in that threshold of the middle second round, right? The late second round, early third, and you find quality starters. So that's where I will probably put the threshold at. I think Terrion, obviously, upside is through the roof, and we talked about that. It's just more consistency type situations. But you will have to believe, right, that he's going to be a plug and play guy playing so much press man, right? Because Flores blitzes, he has to technically be sound all the time, right? Or you're talking about an explosive play, you're talking about a big play. So that would be my only question mark, DP, with that situation. Then I look at the pick that I really like in the guy. Listen, just what's two picks? It's back-to-backs. The Las Vegas Raiders taking Talise Fuaga. I think that's a really good selection for them. That's a culture addition, right? You're trying to bring that physicality, that athleticism, that grit, that toughness. I think it brings all of that. And then Tyler Guyton with the New Orleans Saints, man, an offensive tackle. He plays on the right side, right? I think you can leave him on the right side. The whole situation with Trevor Penning, potentially slide Ryan Ramczyk to the left side. So I think those offensive tackles going back to back is a good situation.
No, 100%, Keith. I think if you can, especially Guyton, he's still a guy that's raw in terms of his hands, hand carriage and everything, but physically, He's so gifted, man. He may be the most athletic guy in this class. Him and Olu in terms of just redirection, speed, quickness, explosiveness, stuff like that. And then, of course, you think about Patrick Paul. Because sticking with the corners, man, I think I like this one here with the Indianapolis Colts getting Quinyon Mitchell, man, pairing him with Juju Brents. You know what I mean? Now giving yourself two young corners on the outside. And I think, we've seen Quinyon, even I think at the Senior Bowl, he's actually slid into the nickel. He did it on tape as well. A guy that for me is like, man, just watching him, talking to him, interviewing him at the combine, at the Senior Bowl as well. This is a detail-oriented mindset, that he has. This young man is very, very nuanced in terms of like understanding, and he's willing to figure things out, right? In terms of how to play different guys, learning their skill set, learning their strengths and weaknesses, either from watching the tape, but also in person. And it's like, listen, the first couple reps is like a boxing match. I got to test myself and figure out where do I own the advantage and where do I have the disadvantage? And I'm gonna lean to my advantages once I figure it out. So I think he'll be great in that defense along with Juju Brents. But also, Keith, like these two pairings here, 19 and 20, I think Pittsburgh could go either tackle or corner, right? Because they got JPJ, Joey Porter Jr. last year. They absolutely need another tackle. We talked about this. 55 pressures allowed by Dan Morgan at tackle. That can't happen no more, man. You can't have that, right? I don't care if you traded for Justin Fields. You can't have one offensive lineman giving up that many pressures in the season.
Yeah, that's just one.
It's just so. That's just a single fact.
The Pittsburgh is going to be interesting because I think they let go their center also. I think they're waiving or cutting their center.
Jason Cole, I think is his name.
Yeah,
I think they released him.
Yeah,
so they can go offensive line and like multiple.
And
they got an offensive line need, period.
Yeah, no, this is a team that potentially need to walk away with two guys, right? Like two offensive linemen from out of this draft. And you talk about potentially a Cedric Van Pran in the late second, right? And then, if you spend, a first round pick on an offensive tackle, then now you feel like, okay, we're getting back to the basics, right? But DP, I want to talk about pick 17, man, for Byron Murphy. And I like the player. I don't necessarily know if I like the fit. And it's because, and we had this conversation before, right, with the Trayvon Walker situation and him turning a corner. But I believe that him turning a corner is a result of him moving down, right, and getting kicked inside. And then I think Byron Murphy is an interior defensive lineman, right? So you're talking about those third downs. Don't get me wrong, right? It is an explosive matchup, but I don't know. Maybe if it was Jacksonville, maybe I would have went another edge rusher here because, you have Josh Allen, you kick Trayvon Walker down, and then if you can have one more edge rusher, like maybe a high-wired guy like a Chop Robinson or something like that, and you pair him with the Josh Robinson and Trayvon Walker, now I think that you talk about that NASCAR package, like you are ready to roll in that situation. So that's the one I'm like, I really like the player. The Jacksonville Jaguars are one of those teams where you could probably say they had a disappointing season, right? And it's just about, I think it's fine-tuning the pieces and making the last little roster adjustments for them to kind of get going. And I wonder if this would be a good situation or would it kind of clog up, you know what I'm saying, the whole rotation and stuff like that.
From what I'm listening to Wiggs or Locked On Jacks, he always talk about the fact they need to get more physical on the front line, on both sides, on offensive line and defensive line. And in a situation like this, like, I like the physicality of what Byron Murphy would bring. But like you said, like if you are going to run, if you're going to kick, especially if you kick Trayvon down like full time, right, where you're 3 of your 4-man set on first and second downs will be Byron Murphy, who plays like a nose tackle, but he's just in the body of a 3-tech. And then you have Trayvon, you're going to have to go out there and get a free agent like a Jadeveon Clowney to be that kind of that extra edge rusher. So now you got Clowney, Walker, Murphy, and Josh Allen, who they got to pay, by the way, because I think he's a free agent. I'm pretty sure he might get tagged or something, but still, like that's what you're going to have to do. If you're going to make a pick like this, you're going to have to get that edge rusher and reduce Trayvon inside, unless you can find another D tackle to where you could leave Trayvon on rundowns on the edge and then reduce him inside. But still, yet they got a lot they got to fix on the trenches on both sides of the ball here, Keith. And 19 for me, man. I love the pick of getting Nate Wiggins. This is that defensive line with Kobe Turner, Aaron Donald, Byron Young, right? These are guys who get after you. And we saw that all 2023. So you're giving those two rookies now another year. AD is still one of the best in the game at, on the defensive side of the ball. So you're going to be able to force quarterbacks to get the ball out quick. And Nate Wiggins got ball skills. He clicks and closes well, plays great from depth and triggering downhill. Axe Drake May, that interception he had on the sideline. He made another one like that early in the season, for Clemson as well. I think it was like week 2 or 3, just baiting the quarterback into a sideline throw and then triggering. And that's when the first one he took back for a pick six. So that athleticism downhill, that burst and explosiveness downhill will absolutely pair well in this defense, which allowed them to get a little bit that defense with the pass rush. Keith, you know how it is. If you can rush the passer, your corners could be a little they could take some risks because they know the quarterback's trying to get it out quickly. And San Fran, what they like to do, a lot of out routes, a lot of end breakers. You know that you're going to have to deal with probably Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona. You're going to need a cornerback that can match up with guys. Seattle, they got DK, JSN, Tyler Lockett. You're going to have to be able to take the ball away from these type of offenses. I think Nate Wiggins will give them a cornerback that can do so.
Yo, with DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. What I heard was the Miami Dolphins are replacing Tua Tagoviloa in this mock draft. So coming up next, man, find out what quarterback is replacing Tua Tagoviloa.
You know, one thing we like to say as adults, if I had one more hour, if I had a little bit more time to knock out that report, to handle and fix that issue, right? Knock down that firewall, fix that spreadsheet. All of that for what, right? An extra hour to do more work, an extra hour to take care of something for someone else. Guys, when are we going to start prioritizing us? When are you going to start prioritizing you? Right? Having that extra time in the day should be for you to go for a run, take a nap, read a book, show up for somebody that you love, and do the things that you love. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it and get more out of it. All right? It's very simple. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. All right? Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Let's get it started. Let's end this thing. At pick 21, the Miami Dolphins select Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington. At pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles go Braylon Trice, edge rusher out of Washington. At pick 23, the Houston Texans select Johnny Newton, interior defensive lineman from Illinois. At pick 24, the Dallas Cowboys select Jackson Powers Johnson, interior offensive line out of Oregon. At pick 25, the Green Bay Packers select Graham Barton, interior offensive line out of Duke. At pick 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select safety out of Minnesota, Tyler Nubin. At pick 27, the Arizona Cardinals go offensive line with Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle from Washington. At pick 28, the Buffalo Bills select Keon Coleman, wide receiver from Florida State. At pick 29, the Detroit Lions select Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. At pick 30, the Baltimore Ravens select Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver from LSU. At pick 31, the San Francisco 49ers select Amarius Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. And then pick 32, the Kansas City Chiefs select Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. We got to go right back up to the top to start, Keith. Michael Penix Jr. is a Miami Dolphin. Keith, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this is redundant. Same thing in obviously surface level. People are going to say, oh, we're lefties, and that's the redundant situation. But it comes down to the skill set, DP. We had our really good quarterbacks, hitches, trailers conversation, right? And I think that you're drafting a guy with the same type of ceiling to where they probably both will be hitches, right? And that's what Tua is. Tua is a hitch in my opinion, meaning that if everything is good on the front end, he can pull the back end, right? And he kind of ties the whole thing together. But when things are not good on the front end, you know what I'm saying? This is not a guy that's going to pull stuff. And I kind of feel similar ways to Michael Penix Jr. in the sense of the fact of I do like Michael Penix Jr. as a quarterback prospect, right? But how does this make the Miami Dolphins a better team? I don't think it does, because I think you're in a threshold, right? You're probably going to get somewhere of the same type of quarterback output or the same type of quarterback play. And we have to realize is that I'm say hate is kind of strong, but I kind of do. That there's, we do so much recency bias, right? Or like, what's the last thing that we seen, and then forget everything else, right? Like this election would be, hey, because the Miami Dolphins didn't play well in the playoff game and they lost. And I think you know what I'm saying? And they need a quarterback. But the truth is, throughout the season, Tua Tagoviloa played some really good football, right? And you ask yourself, okay, is Michael Penix Jr. going to play better than that throughout the season? And you believe that he's a guy that's going to show up in the playoffs, right? Because that's the part that's missing for Tua. It's not the regular season. It's not that he's a bad quarterback in the regular season. It's getting the job done in the playoffs. So I just think it's a potentially redundant situation. And like, let's say if we're doing like rank, like quarterback, like almost like Madden ratings, right? It's like, okay, are you going to spend a first round pick to upgrade your quarterback situation from a 83 to a 85, right? Like how much more difference is it, you know what I'm saying, than spending a first round pick? And they need offensive line help. They need, to get another edge rusher. They have other positions of needs that I just wouldn't like this one necessarily for the Miami Dolphins.
And I think that's where I land, Keith, because you said redundant. That's the first thing came to my mind. And more so like, yes, can Michael Penix absolutely rip throws that Tua physically can't? At 100%, right? The arm talent is vastly different between these two. But the deficiencies is where they're the same. Tua struggles with pressure. He struggles when you move him off the spot. He struggles when you force him to throw on the move. Well, guess who also struggles with that? Michael Penix Jr. It's the same thing. So it's like, wow, yes, the arm talent is an upgrade, 100%. The ability to actually hit, and then this is no slight to Tua, but Tua does have a lot of underthrown deep balls on tape where Tyreek and Jalen all kind of, let me slow down. Let me take, hit the gas, hit the brake pedal to come back and wait for the ball a little bit, where Michael Penix Jr., he can actually stretch it out there in front of them when they have a guy stacked by 2 or 3 yards and actually take advantage of that, right? But again, when the pressure gets in the backfield and you move him off his spot, like they're both pocket quarterbacks. So it's like, man, like that to take that in the first round where, like you said, you need offensive line help, that's kind of tough for me. I just think that's just a little bit too rich. In this situation, yeah, I'm not with it, Keith. This is
that's why I'm mad. I think that Tua, like we said, if we call him a hitch, then you need to go get some more pieces around him, right, to help him in those playoff games to where you can take the football out of his hand, not necessarily drafting another quarterback to potentially replace him. I just wouldn't at this moment. I don't know that you definitively say that we can't win a Super Bowl with Tua Tagovailoa, right? Like they've been lesser quarterbacks than Tua that have won a Super Bowl.
100%. I mean, we see the right situation. Most functional quarterbacks can get you there. Right, we've seen that with Brock Purdy in the Niners. We've seen it with multiple times. Nick Foles, the right situation, the right team, the right destiny. It happens, right? I look at this pick. I love this pick for Dallas Cowboys. Jackson Powers-Johnson getting the athletic, physical, nasty dude on the interior offensive line that is going to keep the pocket, help keep the pocket clean for Dak Prescott, so that if you do work around those tackles, he can slide and step up in the pocket and feel comfortable, but also get back to running the football and being a nasty run team, man.
Well, DP, they better get a running back. Zeke. They better get a running back if they want to run the football, DP. They need
Tony Pollard's not going to throw it 25 times and make you and wear you down for 4 quarters. That's not going to happen, right? Like, so getting a Jackson Powers-Johnson is a right step in the right direction, because they need to get more nasty. You think about him at either, especially if he's at center, Keith, and you got Tyler Smith on flanking him on the left side at left guard. Like and then Tyron Smith returns, and now that's your left side of your offensive line. Man, I remember, what was it, Sean Alexander, when he was with the Seahawks? I think Adrian Peterson, when he was with the Vikings, having those strong left sides to run behind. man, whoever you put somebody in that backfield who could tote that rock, they'll be happy to run behind a left side of the offensive line where your left tackle, your left guard, and your center are all physical, nasty individuals that can displace guys with ease in the vertical run game. But I think this is a step in the right direction for the Cowboys.
No, I agree 100%. I like it. I just wonder if the Cowboys are going to go for flash, right? It just seems like
It is
I don't
Jerry
know.
Jones we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, but they have been relatively kind of passive when it comes to free agency and the draft as of late. I mean, I guess obviously CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, right? But they did a whole lot of drafting offensive linemen, and the Mozzie Smith situation. I wonder if they're going to go for flash, because it seems like the fan base this is the first time in a while that they've been frustrated with the front office, and like not all of the energy is directly placed on Mike McCarthy or Dak Prescott, right? Some of that is like I could see Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones getting some heat. So that's the one thing that I'll be interested, but I do think it's a good selection for them, and it's a position of need. DP, last one, the Arizona Cardinals taking Troy Fontanu. How do you, because I believe they have two offensive tackles, right? They drafted Paris Johnson last year, the number one tackle off the board, and the left side is DJ Humphrey. So I wonder if this is to be able to kick Troy Fontanu inside. But I mean, I think Troy is more than enough, talented enough. I've watched him. I just finished him up. I don't see the need to have to play him at guard at all. And to be honest, even when I watch him, I don't see size deficiencies when he loses. I see lack of technique issues when he loses. But man, I like his movement skills and how athletic he is. So I think he can play offensive tackle. So if you plan on kicking him, fine. If you want to kick him down to guard, if you're the Arizona Cardinals. But I wonder if Graham Barton's off the board. I was about to say, I wonder if Graham Barton would have been a better selection if you're trying to, beef up the interior offensive line. But I thought it was a decent pick. I'll never get angry with taking an offensive lineman. But this situation, I don't know if it necessarily fits.
Yeah, I mean, he what Jonathan Gannon has brought is that physicality and grit to that offense with the run game. So he would fit that. But like, I'm with you, Keith. Unless you're keeping DJ Humphries and you're just like, you know what, we're going to beef up this offensive line altogether. Cool, I'm fine with that, right? But this is a situation where you're looking at it, and if he's still staying at tackle, you probably trade DJ Humphries to a team that needs a tackle for probably at worst a back end of the second round, third round pick, and you get yourself an extra. Because I think the Arizona Cardinals right now have 4 to 5 top 100 picks right now. So if you were able to trade him off, because DJ Humphries can still play ball, but if you think about it, like, all right, and that's the thing too, is like, there's been talk of probably trying to figure out, should they move Humphries to then flip Paris to left tackle, right? So it's like, yeah, it's just
let's just say this one is probably a to be determined, right? Because the Arizona Cardinals have to make some, they have to make some situations fit. Real quick,
if they took a tackle, Keith, it'd probably be a right tackle, so that they can then flip Paris to the left.
Johnson. Yeah, I mean, it goes a lot, right? But then I like Paris at right tackle more than I like them at left tackle. It's crazy.
He looks good.
It's a whole lot. Yeah, it's a whole lot to go in that. I like the Buffalo Bills selecting Keon Coleman, and then once again, Xavier Legette falls to the Kansas City Chiefs. The rest of the NFL, good luck with that one. But DP, that wraps up another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man. Well, listen, man, this is the best source for the best NFL draft content, your daily source. Listen, man, I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. If you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. If you haven't commented, comment which selection did you like for your team, whether you liked it or didn't like it. Let's have this conversation. And then if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell a friend. Listen, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my co-host, man, Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout for being our everyday. It's on tomorrow's episode, guys. We are getting into Combine, the NFL Scouting Combine preview, and we're starting with the offensive players that can make themselves some money, right? Help themselves the most, guys that can hurt themselves the most. And then we're going to talk about, like we did before the Senior Bowl, How do you value the scouting combine in your scouting and evaluation process? We can get into all of that tomorrow. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.